Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Whole Life Living TV live show, sponsored by Sherry Gideons International, a show that explores simple ways to live life from your highest potential with outstanding news and the latest topics on positive news from a healthy, happier, more loving conscious mindset, with internationally known guests and everyday people taking simple ways to take belief and apply it towards mastering your life and goals. I'm your host, Sherry Gideons. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm very grateful to have you. If you want to know more about me, you can visit wholelifeliving.com or my main site, sherrygideons.com, for individual coaching programs and to know more about updated information on my show guests and regular tips on living a whole, perfect, and complete life one moment at a time. I'd like to introduce my guest today. Lynn Andrews is the New York Times and internationally best-selling author of the Medicine Woman series, which chronicles her 3 decades of study and work of the way of the sacred feminine, which began with Agnes Whistling Elk and Ruby Pliny Chiefs, Native American healers in northern Canada. Her quest for spiritual discovery continued with the shaman Curandera, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, of the Mayan. Go ahead and raise your speaker up just a tad for us.
Okay.
And did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay,
Perfect.
wonderful. An Aboriginal woman of high degree in the Australian outback or Nepalese healer in the foothills of the Himalayas. Today, she is recognized worldwide as a leader in the fields of spiritual healing and personal empowerment. A shaman, healer, and mystic, Miss Andrews is widely acknowledged as a major link between the ancient world of shamanism and modern societies, which thirst for profound personal healing and a deeper understanding of the pathway to enlightenment. She is initiated as the member of the Sisterhood of the Shields, 44 women who are healers from the cultures as diverse as Panama, Guatemala, Australia, Nepal, North America, and the Yucatan. Remaining hidden, the Sisterhood has appointed Miss Andrews as their public messenger. In addition to her Medicine Woman series, she has written an additional 19 best-selling books and workbooks about her work with these women and their unique and deeply profound teachings. Passed from generation to generation, their teachings born of the sacred feminine has been practiced, guarded, and handed down from shaman to apprentice, mother to daughter, for over 5,000 years. I'd like to welcome Miss Lynn Andrews to the show, and thank you for being on Whole Life Living Show today.
Well, thank you so much, Sherry. What a joy. I appreciate it very, very much.
Well, I'm really enthused to connect with you because a lot of the things that, I just said in talking about you, I've experienced in my life, having had a near-death experience in 1997. One of the things that was said to me so profoundly when I was given the choice to come back into my body was that I never had to worry, that all the right people would show up at the right moment to help me move forward. And one of the first people that showed up in my life was a woman by the name of Carol Swim, who was a shaman and taught me about shamanism and how to journey into the different soul parts of myself, that were seeking to be healed.
Right. I think the good part of that is that you don't have to worry.
That's right.
I think people worry way too much this time in our lives.
And that's so true. And that, that's what really leads me into the subject that we're going to talk about, women at the edge of two worlds and dealing with menopause. And, I myself am, in the approaching 51. And so literally about a year ago, I started struggling with different experiences, health issues, related to this particular topic. So I'm really looking forward to addressing some of the things spiritually, that are happening within us as well, around menopause and different things that we face at this particular stage in our lives.
Well, menopause is a very extraordinary time in one's life. It is a passage, it is a threshold, if you will, that you walk through into a whole new aspect of your life. It is really you walking into your time of spirit. And usually, by the time of menopause, you have started at least, or have made your mark in life. You've raised your children. You're at a whole different window. And that window can be, and hopefully is for everyone listening and for yourself, is a place of freedom. However, there are tests that are trying to make you look at the world with a kind of denial. You don't want to, first of all, be over the hill, as people say, is a dreadful, dreadful thing. Or you're going to suddenly be the crone, right, which is a word that I absolutely do not like, because it implies people have an image of what the crone looks like, when actually they look like you, who is beautiful and long, gorgeous hair, and you're on a career that gives people like me a voice in the world, and that's a magnificent thing. But the issue of menopause is that by going in and crossing over this threshold, there are many tests, as it is. Power tests you in a way. And there are hot flashes. There are changes physically in your body when you realize that estrogen really controls about 300 different functions in your body. And suddenly your hormones are going wild, and you most likely have hot flashes. And the way I've written my book, Woman at the Edge of Two Worlds, The Spiritual Journey of Menopause, is that when you start having hot flashes, another way of looking at that is that you are really, in fact, your body is burning out the psychic debris that you have collected in your whole life. And that it's a clearing, it's a cleansing. In my book, I kind of, each chapter is around the fire, you know, the gathering of the wood, the building of the fire, and so forth. And what I'm trying to express to women is that this is a joyous time, not a terrible time. And you're not going over the hill. You're going into a whole new world of existence for yourself. I mean, you've kind of got an idea of what life is about. You've been through a lot by this time. And now you have a time to collect all of that, collect your thoughts and deal with your body. And, you know, I look at, just to take one little area of this and talk about it. When you have had, going into menopause, sometimes people have bone issues. They have, their bones are losing calcium, say. The structure of your body is beginning to shift and isn't the same as it has always been, perhaps. But it is the same. It needs something new to be given to it. And one of those things that is new is the way that you think. When you are losing bone and so forth in your body, look at what that means. It means you're losing structure. You're losing perhaps your foundation. So what does that tell you? It tells you that in your mind, you need to see, okay, my structure is going to be different. I'm not going to be taking care of children, say. I'm going to be taking care of me, myself. And I don't even know how to do that. A lot of women don't. A lot of women feel that they are not worthy of success and the freedom of their own life. And they've been living somebody else's dream, perhaps all of their life. If they come out of abuse from early on, then definitely they are living somebody else's dream. If you're a child who has been abused, you are always trying to get out of the way. You're trying to be invisible. You don't tell anybody what your dream is, because at that point, you probably don't have one.
Right.
You're afraid to express it if you do. So here we go on through life, and you get to menopause. Oh my God, I don't have to do the things that I used to do. So what is my dream? And they don't know how to find it. And that's what I have discovered in my teachings all over the world. I would teach as I was on book tour, and then I started lecturing and formed 3 different schools so that I could help people get through these difficult times in their life. And the aspect of self-worth is so important, because as you're looking at menopause, your self-worth is being challenged no matter what. You're thinking that there's all these labels put on this particular passage. And that's a good thing, in that if you are a courageous person, if you are interested in learning something new every day, menopause, this time of your life, is a wonderful period. It's a wonderful absence of period, perhaps, that gives you a chance to really explore this extraordinary being that maybe has never had a face in the world before.
Let me ask you a question real quick. What prompted you to write this book, and why the title Women at the Edge of Two Worlds? Was there something that you had gone through in your life that you were really speaking from that place in yourself?
Oh, absolutely. All of my books are written from my own experience. I don't write fiction. And so when I go through an experience, most of these experiences that I've had are experiences of teaching, someone teaching me something or the other way around. And I've always found that we are really all the same, in the core of our own being. We all want pretty much the same things. We want to have a wonderful feeling about ourselves. We want freedom. We want love and relationship. We want abundance, spiritually and physically, all of these things. Now, I got to this age, and I looked around, and I realized that I was on the edge of another world, a whole different world. And it was a threshold. It's the same as first blood. We don't celebrate in this country first blood very much. And it's a shame, because it's a beautiful time. You're moving into your fecundity, if you will. And I celebrate that. I have ceremonies for girls that are moving into first blood. It's their initiation time. And the same way with wise blood. You are, again, at the edge of two worlds. And you are standing in the world that you've always known, at a cliff, so to speak, and that cliff comes to you, and you experience it in many, many different ways. Sometimes with fear, sometimes with giving up, sometimes with cutting your hair short. A lot of people have different ways of going through this. And there's no question that the change in hormones is a big deal. People think, oh, that's not a big thing. Why are you so upset? Well, when you shift your emotions as much as they do in this period of time, because hormones, in a way, produce feelings and emotions within you. And sometimes you don't know how to deal with that. You don't have someone that has walked down the trail before you. For me, of course, I had the sisterhood, thank heaven. I decided that I would write a book about this, because it was so extraordinary. When I went through menopause, I'd go to the doctor, and they didn't know much about it, frankly. They'd have you do bioidentical or synthetic hormone replacement, and they wouldn't even take a blood test at that time the way we do today, or a saliva test. So many things have been learned since then. They knew all about the male passages and the problems with male illness. They didn't know much about the female. And it was horrifying for me to see that. I thought, my God, they haven't done much research on this at all. And so I really looked into that, and I saw, my gosh, women are put into mental institutions, for heaven's sake, when they go into menopause. T.S. Eliot's wife was put in a mental institution, and finally, when they realized that estrogen, the lack of it, was probably her problem, she took it, she felt better, and she didn't want to leave this place that she had been moving. And she stayed there for the rest of her life, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. And for some reason, it was lovely and beautiful, and it gave her some kind of safety. But, throughout history, women do not know what's happening to them. They wake up suddenly one day and they're so depressed, they just can't even believe it. They don't know where the depression is coming from. They don't know how to deal with it. They call their doctor. The doctor goes, in years ago. Now, there has been so much study and so much written about this subject that it is very much more helpful. And there are so many ways to deal with it. But I must say that in the shamanic way that I have always learned throughout the world is that, you have to change your attitude.
Right.
And when you change, as you well know, Sherry, when you change your attitude, everything shifts around you. And you change your attitude into one of, oh my God, this is the beginning of my true spiritual journey. I am in wise blood. Oh my God, thank you. This is a beautiful time. And yes, it's hard. And you're facing challenges perhaps every day, but it's okay. It's wonderful, because if you are a woman like me, you love the adventure of it. You love challenges. You love learning something new. I personally have always been voracious about learning something new every day of my life, whether it's from books or people or from my own body. And our own body is related to the earth. We're related to this extraordinary activity that goes on in nature, and we can learn from nature. We can heal ourselves. It's wonderful, for instance, to be by a moving stream in these days, and to watch the water and to listen to it and realize that you're flowing down that river in your own way. And there is so much to learn. I write in my book about this so that you can follow it. And I also wrote a workbook that goes with this, so that there are exercises and things that you can do, actually,
Yeah.
It helps, because, oh my God, you have a reason for going through this. It isn't just that you are no longer going to have children, but you're going to have a new kind of child. And that child is part of the world of creativity, part of the world of spirit. And it's part of your passage into enlightenment. It's a fantastic mirror, and it is an act of power.
I want to use myself as an example based on what you're saying for a second, because, I first of all, I thank God that I'm at this place in spiritual awakening in myself where I'm willing to seek solutions. I'm willing to look at this spiritually. But, from that human standpoint, in the last year, I faced different hormonal issues, meaning one, continuous bleeding, dealing with that, and them not knowing what was wrong with me, and dealing with obviously higher emotions. And then secondly, considerable back pain, where I was dealing with different back issues and feeling like I didn't have support, and then being willing to look at where in myself I didn't feel supported.
Well, that's when you need to really pay attention to that, Sherry, because what you're describing is the precursor to losing your foundation, losing your structure. And then you're going to see the effect in your bones, and you don't want to do that.
Right.
There's a chapter in my book that's called Bone Woman. And it's what we do is when I give these events about this, all of this incredible passage, rites of passage, I call it.
Mm-hmm.
And we make these spirit dolls, and the spirit doll is a bone woman. And the bone woman, the way that you build her is you look at the legs and the feet, and they are standing on the ground. And a lot of people will suddenly start having back problems, or hip, or knee, or ankle and feet, because they don't have a leg to stand on.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. But you do. You see, you're doing this show. You are going on with your life in a very creative, beautiful way. And in that regard, you are building a foundation, but you need to really concentrate on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm building a foundation. Wow, I never thought of it that way.
Right.
And your feet are squarely on the ground. What are you doing? How are you walking forward, which is the only way that your knees can go? And if you're constantly thinking about the past, you're not moving forward. The knees start to hurt and disintegrate slightly and or completely. You never know. And the hips actually have to do with your sexual, how you approach this whole period of time sexually. And
wow.
Yeah, and it's important. That part of your body is so important. And, you know, see it as a celebration. See it as a time when the active power has actually been provided for you. And let me ask you something. You said there was a lot of bleeding.
Yes.
Did they say why there was a lot of bleeding, or like fibroids or something?
Yep, they said fibroids, and eventually they said that oh gosh, what else did they say besides fibroids? They said that they thought that I had anemia.
Well, if you have anemia, you can deal with that immediately.
Yeah.
And deal with it. But if I had severe bleeding, and I had fibroids, and they wanted to take out everything, you know, and you understand that when estrogen is depleted in your body, the fibroids tend to go away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't know that. I love this.
Yeah. So as the fibroids go away, the bleeding will lessen. Usually, normally. I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you anything other than my own experience.
Well, what they're trying to do now is I mean, believe it or not, they try to refrain from taking everything out these days. What they want to do is they bring up ablation, you know, where they burn the uterus, or they want to put what they call a 5-year IUD that causes your uterus to slowly start to thin, which then puts you into menopause naturally.
Well, these are all things to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Those were not available when I was doing this. I don't know. I'd have to know a whole lot more about it. But coming from the uterus are all kinds of hormones and different things that if you can keep your uterus, it's a good thing to do. I think that's just personally,
right?
You know, my feeling was that, and I did. These other things you're talking about, I would, you know, if you ever want to work with me on this, find out what these things really do. If they're burning, what are they burning? You know, what are they really doing? And I think it's wonderful that they're dealing with it. I don't know what I think about. I'd have to know more about it.
Yeah. Well, mine, to be completely honest with you, my main attention as a seeker has been to be, you know, asking certain questions within myself, you know, framing certain questions in a way where I meet people like you, or I read a book and, you know, or, you know, I meet somebody in the moment that is addressing, you know, this particular area that I've been seeking. I mean, to be honest with you, this last year for me has really been an awakening of truly mastering the moment, embracing it and embodying it for the gift that it is.
Well, I think it's wonderful that you're seeing it that way. A lot of women go into denial. They deny they're not in hot flashes. I'm just warm, you know. They deny, there's a denial of the process that really is going on inside of them.
Right.
And as a result of that, they perhaps don't learn what they could learn. And that's why I've written about it. That's why I teach this. I work with people who are in the middle of this and moving towards it and coming out on the other side. The thing I really just say, I reiterate this, that it is a time of wise blood.
Mm-hmm.
It is a time of moving into that magnificent spiritual world that you've been yearning for your whole life, and maybe you didn't know it.
Well, I think that's important, and more so on that, just addressing your book in general. I mean, taking it from this perspective, I think is something that so many women need to know more about, and how, I was looking at some of the things that were questions that came up, in looking at your book and reading a little bit about it. And, one of the things that came up for me is, how does menopause help us to move into a new life? And how does it mirror a new beginning? Because, obviously, like you said, I'm in my, early stages of 50s, and I've had all my children, but at the same time, I really want to live my purpose, be out there enjoying life and, more than anything, being my authentic self, which is, very playful.
Absolutely. I mean, it is playful, and sometimes menopause, the timing, it's difficult. Some people suffer much more than others. I have met women in their 20s who are going through menopause, incidentally.
Wow. I would have never thought.
Isn't that something? And it's because of the hormones, of the things that she was eating, particularly. There were a lot of hormones in that food. And it was causing the way that it was arranged and the way her physicalness was. She was going through menopause in her 20s before she'd had children or anything.
Wow. We have a question from at Gliss Life here, and she would like to know, how do I avoid the weight gain? I have gained 40 pounds in 2 years during peri and menopause. Why?
Menopause what?
She says, I have gained 40 pounds during the 2 years during perimenopause and menopause. Why?
I don't hear the last word that you're saying, but that's okay.
She's gained 40 pounds. Yeah. She wants to know why.
40 pounds, and that's a big deal. And that's what happens. You start taking, she's probably taking bioidentical or synthetic hormones. Is that true?
Let's ask her. So are you taking the bioidentical hormones or hormones? And she'll probably tell us in just a second. Yeah, she says, yes, it's a very big deal to her.
So estrogen tends to make you gain weight, I have found.
Yeah, she says, no, she's not taking any of those, doing it all naturally.
Well, she's taking bioidentical hormones. Is that correct, Kathy?
She's not. She's not doing anything.
She's not doing anything. Well, your hormones are obviously really out of whack. So if you're gaining that kind of weight, and also you have to think about weight gain. What does it really mean? I mean, when you're putting on a whole new suit of flesh, and what does that do? It keeps you away from certain sexualities, perhaps. It keeps you away from people that perhaps are bothering you in some way. Weight gain has to do with that, in my experience. It also can be just hormones gone crazy. But if that's true, you need to deal with it. I would go have a blood test and saliva test and all the things that they do to find out where you're at. You know, what is out of balance? You may have very high progesterone and no estrogen, or the other way around. You can help yourself if you wish to get that back into balance one way or another, by the foods that you eat or by the different kinds of hormones that you can take. And if you're getting that kind of weight gain, I'd suggest that.
She says, I don't like it. It's changing how I feel about myself. And she's used to being thin her whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Okay. I would say or ask you how, excuse me, can I go off the air just for a minute?
Yeah, go ahead just for a second.
I'm so sorry.
I've had that same thing happen to me before.
I don't know what it is. I'm coughing.
No, it's all right. No, I mean, I love the topic that we're discussing because I think, on a spiritual level as well, so many people are really seeking answers spiritually now as well. And many people don't even know that there's a spiritual reason for some of these, symptoms or, effects that we're going through. So I love that you're addressing this.
Well, it's so necessary. I'm sucking on something to keep my throat.
Go ahead.
um, Kathy, I would, if you can, I do private sessions over the phone. It would be wonderful if you would go up on my website, and it has a calendar, and you can make yourself an appointment, and I can talk with you and work with you, because there's things going on here. I feel them, but golly, I got a cough again. Just a minute.
Take your second. Take your moment. I want to take a second here to welcome everybody to the show. Thank you for joining in. And we are discussing women at the edge of two worlds. And this is a topic that is about women and menopause. If you have any questions, please press Q / in your right-hand side of the panel, and you can send a message to us that we can have Lynn answer. Also, please look on the left-hand side of your screen. You're going to see tweet and a little bird. Please tweet this out on Twitter so that everybody out there in Twitter can come and join the show and ask questions. Also, there's a post button for Facebook. Please post this to Facebook and share the show with your friends and followers on Facebook. We'd greatly appreciate it. I'm Sherry Gideons. I am the host of Whole Life Living Show. And today our guest is Lynn Andrews, who is a best-selling New York author and an expert as a medicine woman, and sharing with us today, Women at the Edge of Two Worlds, Women and Menopause. And once again, I'm going to take a second to ask her the question about hot flashes. And are hot flashes truly an alchemy? And what do you mean by that? I read that in your book.
They're an alchemy of, in the sense that your whole body is changing. When you feel a hot flash, let's say, instead of fighting it, trying to resist it, going back like this in a place of tension, try to accept it as your body knowing as much of the wisdom in the world as anything. Your body, mind, which is around your navel, has a message that it's giving to you in a way. It's saying that there is psychic debris that you've collected in your life, as we all have. And this process of flame, of burning, that incredible hot flash, the hotness of it is cleaning out that psychic debris from your system. We work with something called luminous fibers, and luminous fibers surround you in a matrix of light. So you have a light body, and that light body is always being affected by what you learn, by your mind, by your emotions, and very definitely by your heart. So when you're looking at a hot flash, I used to, and I don't know if this would work for you, but I used to thank my heart for giving me this experience, something that I had to learn to deal with. I had to learn that it was okay to be in this situation and madly fanning myself or whatever. that it was okay, and that I was being taught something new that I had never known before.
I love that
And
you share that about, because that's one of the things that I too have learned. And I find that it shifts that experience sometimes so much quicker, that when you honor yourself, when you thank your spirit for bringing you this experience, and, I always say, provide me with the solutions.
right. Well, the solution is pray. No, is prayer, doing ceremony, but understanding that it's the bookend to first blood. Now you're moving into wise blood. And I'm not trying to sell books. I'm just saying that when it happened to me, I didn't know either. I mean, I couldn't believe how little the world really knew about what was going on with women. And so this is why I wrote this book and the workbook, is to help people to learn how to meditate in a certain way that it helped the hot flashes subside.
Well, can you talk a little bit more about, what, for people, our viewers who are not aware of some of these symptoms and what they mean spiritually, what is psychic debris? And, what are the benefits of menopause? Excuse me, not menopause, but the benefits of meditation.
Well, meditation is it's a wonderful thing. I don't really, I mean, I teach visualizations and meditations all the time. But I think it's all limited. You came here into this earth walk, your life, to learn extraordinary things, and you should learn everything you can put your hands on. I see women in menopause stepping back. Oh my God, my life's over. Now what am I going to do? I'm no longer attractive. And it's just all hooey as far as I'm concerned. It's a shame, because you don't have to feel like that. So what do I mean by psychic debris?
Yeah.
Psychic debris is these luminous fibers, that this matrix that forms around us like a body of light. You might think of it like a cocoon of light. Sometimes dust, particles of, let's say you have a trauma in your life and someone dies, or you've been in an accident, or, your marriage breaks up, or whatever traumas that we all have. When you have that kind of trauma, not only do you lose a piece of your soul, so to speak. I do a thing called soul retrievals, and we go off in a state of meditation and we bring back these fragments. You can find them out around you, and you pull them back and put them back into the puzzle that is your life. That's one thing. The other thing with this matrix of energy that's around you is that it collects a dust and little aspects of an experience that you may have had 50 years ago. And they kind of stay in the matrix of luminous fibers. So one of the things I teach people to do is how to clean those. And this incredible alchemy of hot flashes, which is chemical, it's a lot chemical, not totally, but it's coming through you in these waves, and it cleanses. It helps to cleanse like fire. It burns away aspects of what I call psychic debris. In other words, psychic meaning something that has affected you mentally or in your heart, and or spiritually. And it all comes down like dust, and you can clear that all away and be suddenly pristine and clean and ready for your new journey. So I do this 3 or 4 day workshop called Rites of Passage. And what I do in any event that I give, which are many, I try and bring people through an experience. Each person has a different experience than anybody else. And I have them make something of beauty, like a spirit doll or a drum or a shield or whatever we're working with. And so they can take that home when they leave, and it has symbols of their learning always somewhere on that object. And plus, it's beautiful. You know, in this world today, for some strange reason, all of the beauty is taken out of our schools. We don't learn art. We don't learn music. We don't do dance anymore. We don't oftentimes even do PE. We don't do home ec. We don't do health. We're learning how to do something technical or mathematical or scientific. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
And when you lose your aesthetic, there's an old comment that in beauty is truth. And it's true. If you can't see beauty in the world, somehow you've lost your sense of beauty. You don't know anything about architecture because they don't teach it to us. So you have to teach yourself. You have to go and dig up an understanding, say, of music or of art, and go to museums, see the beauty. Why is that a beautiful painting? You know, it makes me feel good, but I don't really know why. And you start learning about color and space and how color fits together in a spatial aspect, you know, the harmony of nature and our physical being, and how that's translated into a work of art, because we are a work of art. And to go into menopause and think that your life is over is tragic, because in a sense, it's kind of the beginning.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing that I think that, you know, in the discussions that I have with people, you know, because we naturally get on the subject of menopause, it seems like when you're going through it, you seem to attract more people who are also going through it as well. And I love sharing it from this perspective and listening to some of this, you know, just some of the things that you're bringing up into my awareness. I mean, I know that, you know, I really am recognizing how much more to honor myself, how much more to love myself.
Oh, yeah.
But to be the observer of the things that you're talking about in the moment, you know, when they pop up. And then also, you know, from, you know, what you're saying in the moment, being able to, you know, observe it, but then at the same time, meditate, like you're talking about.
Meditation. You asked me that earlier, and I didn't answer.
Yeah.
Meditation is really good in the sense that you suddenly sit in a place of silence. You quiet the mind, you quiet everything, and you simply sit in a position and simply breathe. You follow your breath in and you follow your breath out, in and out, and you start to move into a place of non-doing and non-thinking. Buddha said that if you can clear your mind of thought for 1 minute, you'll be enlightened. It's that hard to do. It's very difficult not to have a thought. For instance, you'll go into a place and it'll suddenly be a space and you'll go, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. I'm not thinking. And of course it's gone because you started thinking.
No, exactly. That's so cool that you're saying that, because I mean, I love that, you know, I love getting on this topic, you know, about this, because I was talking to, you know, my mentor this morning, and her and I were really just honoring in the moment how cool it is when you recognize it and then you clear your thoughts. But you know what I notice is, first, it's the awareness and the willingness.
Mm-hmm. It's the willingness to learn something new.
Yeah.
And what happens with people, and this is something that I think is a huge issue today, and we see it all over the world. When you have a belief structure, I believe in God this way, and if you don't, then I'll kill you.
Mm-hmm.
In the name of God, I kill you or I love you. Now, that means that you have a fence around your consciousness, and you can't go past that fence. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge difference between belief and faith. I have the faith in a higher being of light that I see within me.
Mm-hmm.
Other people have a belief that God is out here somewhere.
Right. Duality.
Or whatever. It's not part of you, but it is part of you. It's light. I mean, it's so interesting to me because Jesus was the most extraordinary healer. And he talked often about God is within you. The light is within you. And yet, if you were to say that to many of the religions today, they would be highly offended. They say God is over here and you need the church to mediate between you and God or whatever. So faith, on the other hand, is the other half of what I call a shield. One of the first shields that I ever learned. A shield is used in ancient times to be set on a tripod in front of your lodge. And it would tell the whole village who had awakened your shields, what clan are you in? Are you part of the wolf clan, or are you a ghost dancer in the Native American way? And shields are used all over the world for different ways of telling people and the people that you love and your friends where you are in life. So if that's sitting out in front of your lodge and somebody comes over, they know exactly who woke up your shields, what you've been doing, what path you're on, etc. So when you have a shield, there's a truth in it. And on the back of the shield are your very private, personal thoughts and things that represent who you are, that you don't want anybody to know about, say, or it's private to you. Anyway, this shield that I got was given to me, I should say, as a teaching. It was just a big, beautiful shield with a line across the center and a circle in the middle for self. And on the top of this shield was faith in a beautiful color of blue. And on the bottom of the shield in red was belief. And I looked at that and I thought, gee, these things are the same, but they're not. Faith is an atmosphere. Faith is it's a fragrance, and you can smell it. You have the sense of, say, roses. Faith is permeating your entire environment. It's an ambiance that you live within, and you teach within, and you love within. It's not something that you say, this is what I believe in, and you better not cross the line and tell me you believe in something else. And the bottom of the shield is all of that, the belief structures. Do you see the difference? Does that make sense?
Oh, I love that you shared it from that way, because one of the things that I always say for myself is I have the faith of God, not in God. I have the faith of God, because that I know that God lives through me, breathes and has its beingness through me, and pours through me the essence of wholeness, love, joy, harmony, peace. And I know as I am opening that more of myself, it's almost like not putting the crimp on the hose. As I open more to that and believe that and allow that, then man, is this awesome. I mean, it's just the feeling is so magnificent.
Yes, it is. It's a wonderful thing to understand that. I mean, I lecture on that often, because when people are in a belief structure, they're very, very, they're right behind these big walls that are created around them, and they can't go past them. And it keeps you from experiencing all things. In ancient Alexandria, he would bring people from different beliefs and people who wrote different kinds of books and had different art, and he would bring them together into the city of Alexandria, and they would talk and they would discuss things and they would cross-pollinate their ideas. It was fabulous. He would send messengers out to different parts of the world to collect books that people had written, or whatever they had drawn or written to express an ideal. He'd bring them back to Alexandria, he'd copy them, and then send them back to where they'd come from. And when they burned and destroyed the great library at Alexandria, it destroyed that. And that created huge sadness to me, because that's the way that, if in a perfect world, we could just live that way, honoring the differences. I don't care what you believe in. That's wonderful. Maybe it's vastly different from what I believe in, but share with me what that does for you. Share with me. How does that help you live a more productive life and so forth?
Well, I find that as I'm more in tune with connecting more of the feeling of wholeness and joy and the experience of this stage of my life, I'm attracting more of those experiences into my life versus, for example, if I put my attention on the struggle of menopause, the how awful it is, or this is terrible, or whatever. Even like you were talking about earlier, I'm older, or the crone, or just some of the other things that I've thought in the moment, about crow's feet, and my skin is sagging more, and I'm gaining weight. But I think that what I'm saying is that the more I'm aware and observing, not connecting or putting attention onto that, the less I experience, effects.
True. That's true. And, there's something that I work on a great deal, and that's the 4 directions of menopause.
Ooh, tell us about that.
Yeah. I work with the sacred wheel. And the sacred wheel is like a shield. It's round, and in the center is self. In the south is your innocence, your child, your manifestation in the physical world, how you take care of yourself, how you manifest worthiness, how you have relationships, what kind of homework have you done for the business, the activity that you're in the world. That's all in the south. So menopause in the south is part of the south, because it's a physical, something that's happening to you physically. But what happens is that you feel out of control. You feel that you can't do anything about it. You can't change it. And people who are control freaks, for instance, are going to be very upset about that. And someone who's come out of abuse, who needed to be in control because they didn't want to be hit, basically. They want to control the situation so that they feel safe. Do you see? That's all in the south. Then you go up to the west of the wheel. You go up sunwise around the wheel. And in the west is the sacred dream, death, rebirth, and transformation. And that is oftentimes the place of your sacred dream. In other words, what is it that you want to be in this life? Who is it that you want to be? What have I really dreamt of? And it's the place of the great dreaming bear who hibernates in the winter and dreams the dream of her life to come. And it's the place of emotions. A woman tends to live in the West because of emotion. Women tend to live in their emotions more than their mind. So they live in the West, and they dream, and they do a lot of things, but oftentimes they have emotions that they don't know how to deal with. Then you go up to the north on the wheel, and in the north is spirit. In the north is your inspiration that comes down from God, the goddess beings, whatever you want to see as the prime mover in the world, creative force, great beings of light, give you wonderful feelings of oh, I'd love to be able to do that. I would love to write a book, but I don't know how to write a book. So they go down to the south on the wheel and they learn how to manifest that inspiration. Do you see?
Oh, yeah.
So south manifestation works with the north in spirit. The same way with menopause. Menopause is happening to you in the south, but you need the north spirit to come down and help you to understand it, to help you make that into something that is, really sacred for you and a learning process. Then you move to the east on the wheel, which is the place of the rising sun. The west is the place of the setting sun. In the east is reason, is mentality, mental. It's the place where you usually find more men in the east and woman in the west. Okay, so you have these two things that are across from each other. You look at the east and you think, okay, is it reasonable for me to write a book? Is that even something that I can do?
Mm-hmm.
And you decide that yes, it is. So then you go back to the south and you find a way to do your homework, your research, or whatever to write a book. If you are 92 years old and you want to be a ballerina, in the East, the old wise one is going to say, I don't think that's a very good idea, sweetheart. But she may say, well, you could, if you've had the experience of dancing all your life, you could teach it. You don't have to necessarily be a ballerina on your toes at 92. And so the East is rationale. Is this something that makes sense? Can you really build a new house? Can you really do these things that in your emotions in the West you may dream of wanting to do? And so you go over it and there's a whole teaching in each of these directions that help you to understand the totality of yourself. When you go around the wheel and you go around it finally successfully where everything balances, mm-hmm. You're like a tire, a wheel going down the road. It's balanced, so it goes very smoothly. And that's how you learn to balance it. Most people are not balanced. They don't know mm-hmm. how to see a paradigm for the process of thought. Thought just flits away. And you don't know where to put it. You don't know how to catch it. You don't know what to do with it. So if you have a paradigm like the sacred wheel, you learn how to work in those four directions and produce something really that is viable, that is sacred, that is workable, and it manifests your dream in life. Do you see?
I love it. And this is just a process that, is so relative to the individual. And,
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing is that, as I have certain discussions with certain people who are truly seeking solutions in their life, I'm noticing more and more that people are willing to apply certain principles that are going to give them this feeling of joy and happiness. But more than anything, what I'm noticing right now too is the more that I connect to feeling happy now, to feeling joy now, even like when it comes to do with money, what is, money, it's a sense of freedom. And so what does that freedom of movement feel like to me? And I'm noticing more and more that as you're sharing these certain solutions or ways of doing things, that somebody just like you shows up to share a process, simple process, one step at a time that I can follow to come into complete harmony with the truth of who I am, and all of us.
Well, that's why I have a shamanic school. Mm-hmm. I have a wonderful shamanic school that I've written all the curriculum for 4 years. And the thing that's so wonderful, it's a school without walls. You can be anywhere on earth. You can be in Brazil. You can be in Canada. You can be anywhere. You don't have to come to, a school building, campus to learn. You can learn through the computer. Plus, I've written down physically all of the curriculum, and I send it to you piece by piece as we go through the year. And I have mentors that are graduates of mine who are master teachers themselves, and they apprentice. They work as mentors with the students, and then we have a big training once or twice a year. Now, it used to be in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Then it was, or first in Los Angeles, and now it's in Arizona, which is very easy to fly in from anywhere in the world. And we have like a 4-day training, and it's wonderful. It's fantastic because I can talk like we are talking right now with a student in somewhere in the Middle East. They couldn't perhaps go to school where they live, but they can do this online with us, and we can teach them. I can send them things, and it changes their life forever. It gives them the ability to really find self-worth. That's not an easy thing. Mm-hmm. We say, oh, well, just say aphorisms and I have self-worth. I am a wonderful person. It doesn't work.
Right.
It just doesn't work. You have to learn why you don't feel worthy. Mm-hmm. And then you erase that. You tend to work with it, and you find a way to deal with it. When menopause comes up, if you haven't dealt with that in your life, then it really comes up. And that's when people get really depressed and feel like, how am I going to go on without my family and without my kids and all of the things that, they're facing it. I just want to help you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I want to be here for you, as I guess what I want to say. I don't really help you. I hold up mirrors for you, and you help. That's really the way that I teach and always have.
I have a unique situation. I have grown children and grandchildren. Uh-huh. And then I turned around and I had twins about 6 months before I turned 40.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So my twins are 11, almost, they'll be 12 this year. And, I have to say to you, it's an amazing journey for me.
I bet.
Because one is I grew up with the kids in my 20s that are grown. And there was always those moments of what I would change, what I would do differently. Yeah. And then now with the girls, because they're girls, the twins, I mean, from the day that they were born, I whisper in their ears every day, thank you for coming. And do you know how special you are? And, early on, I told them, you teach people how to treat you. And so the more that you honor yourself, the more you're kind and loving to yourself, the more you're going to attract people that are kind and loving to you.
Oh, that's so true. That's so true. In a way, we shouldn't have children in our 20s. I did also. And we should have children when we've learned something. Yeah. When we have something to give them. We haven't had the process of life. When you're 23 years old, you're just still growing and learning yourself.
Right. Well, I want to really thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, I could go on with a whole lot of different questions. And now that you brought in the will and all of that, I definitely realize I got to have you on again so we can really address more on that level, because I feel the importance, of bringing this awareness to people worldwide. And I want people to have a way to connect with you, to join that process, to be part of what you're sharing and your wisdom as a shaman and a medicine woman. So please tell our viewers how can they can be part of that, how they can receive your books and connect with you further.
Well, my books are on Amazon. Of course, that's easy. And I also have a website, lynnandrews.com. And on that website, I also have a bookshop and wonderful, DVDs, CDs, and so forth. And I wanted to tell you, I forgot, MP3. If you will go to my website, I will give you a free MP3. And it's called Keeper of the Brain. And the keeper of the brain is a whole other subject. But within your mental brain, your quality, the body mind, you have a keeper of the brain. And that keeper of the brain is very worried about you going off track. You've learned a certain thing, and that's where they want to keep you. So the keeper of the brain is very important, and I want to offer that as a gift to you. Just go on my website, and you will see the free gift thing there. And I do personal sessions all the time. You can go up on my website, and there's a calendar that gives you the ability to write in the time and the day that you want. And my books, I've written 20 books. I think they are extraordinary for the process of learning. They're about my, not only adventures, but the learning process that I went through in Australia with Ginny V, in the outback, with Ani, who is a Nepalese hill woman in Nepal and in Tibet. I've been all over the world working with these extraordinary women, and they have asked me, please write about your experiences of learning with us so that you can give that to your people. Because ancient teachings are as important today as they've ever been. And oftentimes they're more important because they haven't been influenced by other things. They're just simply learnings of truth. And how I experienced them, which sometimes was they put me through a lot, these women, these wonderful women, but oh boy, they put me through a lot. So you come along with me on that journey in my books. I think you'll enjoy it very, very much. And I also have a deck of cards called the Power Deck. And the Power Deck has been the most extraordinary teaching tool, because on every card, there are 44 of them, is a different painting done by Rob Schouten, who is an extraordinary artist. And he has a beautiful website, all of his own, that you really should go look at because he's something. Anyway, I worked with Rob, and we took these paintings and we put them on each of the cards. And then you turn the card over, and I've written a teaching for the day that corresponds to what you see in the painting. And if you just read out loud the message on the back of the card, you'll have seen the painting, you will have read it, and you will have heard it. And it's a way of praying every day and giving you a point of view for your day. And
wow.
Yeah, I have a writing school also, which is fabulous. And there are some exquisite writers are coming out of that. And people who just want to do diaries and so forth is wonderful. It's a wonderful experience because I've written a book called Writing Spirit, Finding Your Creative Soul, and then a workbook that goes with that. And people find that so important in their lives. And I love being able to share that. And then we have the online classes, which for a year, which are very different from the school. It's a whole other aspect of learning. And you can do that online. It's very easy. You go up on my website and you'll see all of these things we're doing. And I'm just trying to be able to, while I'm here on this earth walk, to give you everything that I can. And I welcome you if you wish to join us or just inquire about what we're doing.
Well, thank you so much, Lynn. I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the Whole Life Living show today. I did share your free gift on the panel, so our viewers can receive that gift by clicking on the link that I put on the panel. I've also included Lynn's web address to inquire about everything that she's doing. I'm just amazed, and I've been on her website. I'm just thoroughly impressed at all the different gifts that she's offering with all of us. So once again, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us here today on the Whole Life Living show. I'm your host, Sherry Gideons. I'm a transformational leader, speaker, life mastery coach, and I am the Whole Life Living Show host. And you can visit me at wholelifeliving.com to find out about further shows that we have with guests and experts. And you can also visit me at sherrygideons.com to find out further about my coaching and different health and awareness programs that I have offered. Thank you again so much, Lynn, for being on our show today, and we will see you next week. Have a great day.
Thank you. You're wonderful.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Namaste to you.
Namaste.